All right, how's our energy this morning? How's your energy? Good? You feel good? All right. You know, last time Titus and I were talking back there, and last time was a Friday, and we kind of felt maybe the energy was a little better. I said, well, maybe I was a little stale up there, but you know, sometimes when you're in that teaching mode, right? Right, you can get stale. So, God, what am I going to say about the next guy, right? You know, so I know I shared a little bit of why I was here the last time, right? And I'll revisit that for a second. Is that when I met Titus, something in me we connected, like really, we related initially over to John Maxwell stuff and coaching and stuff like that, and we got to know I used the model. Literally use the model. See, can I connect with this person, right? Establish some needs. We talked about some solutions together. Here we are, working together a little bit, right? And we've developed commitments with each other. So all that stuff. It is that simple to use the model. Now, this guy, I'm a decent connector. Like, I'm probably like a B minus on connection, okay? If you were going to grade me. Don't grade me, please. But if you were going to, okay, I would honestly going to say I'm a B minus. This guy is an A plus on connection. Like off the charts, right? Like sometimes I got to go, ooh, you know, but in a good way, right? And so, you know, working with him, like I said the last time, is in some ways has inspired me to be here. I was just sharing with the gentleman from Christian Brothers, right? That I'm here because I connected with Titus. Period. Connection. Does the communication always go perfect? Absolutely not. But we're connected. But we are connected. Right? So to my point before, and to Erica's point about methodology versus style. Our style's different. Like I say, I'm a B minus, he's an A plus. Right? And so, without further ado, I want to bring Titus up, let him do his piece, and he's gonna get your energy up.
All right, good morning. Christy, would you come introduce me? I don't know if I like that one very much. Hey, big round of applause for Dave. That was a phenomenal segment, yeah? I'm really excited. So two of the things that really have had the biggest impact in my success in life personally and professionally are the topics we're talking about today. And it doesn't mean that these are more important than the ones that we have talked or will talk about, but there is no question in my mind that communication, and later today we'll talk about leadership, I can almost relate just about every portion of my success to those things. I want to ask you before I really get started, how many of you can relate to the idea, the concept, the notion that communication has a tremendous amount to do with your success? Yeah? Anybody ever talk to their spouse? Cool. Anybody ever communicate with a friend? Yeah? I mean, can you think of anything in life that didn't touch communication? Later today, we'll talk about how everything rises and falls with leadership, but correct me if I'm wrong, everything starts and finishes with communication. Hello? Goodbye? It starts and finishes with communication. I wanted to make sure that was a part of this program. Performance essentials. It's essential. It's really not optional, yeah? I mean, you just can't get around it. You might get irritated with that person in your life, and you might give them the cold what? Shoulder. Do you do one of those? That's still communication. You just can't get away from it. Why am I looking at Zach? He doesn't respond to my text. He's getting a cold text shoulder. Guys, it's all communication, yeah? So what I want to talk to you today is about really the two cornerstones, the heads and tails of communication. And that's verbal and nonverbal. We had a few folks earlier that talked about communication styles, and I think somebody mentioned body language. Who said that? You? Anybody else say that? Yeah? So we're going to talk just a bit about verbal and nonverbal communication. Let me ask you this question. Is one of those more effective than the other in your mind? Yeah? Which one do you think is more effective? Nonverbal. Studies show that almost 73% more effectiveness comes from your nonverbal communication. You close more sales, build more relationships, advance the conversation, advance the situation, create solutions, see through the vision almost 73% more effectively when you shut up. Now here's the problem. We hate shutting up, yeah? Oh my goodness. You ever met somebody that just talks and talks and talks? Somebody just like real center of the tension kind of people. Hey, the truth is, later on in this segment, before I send us to break, I'm going to talk to you about why we all talk so darn much. But the truth is we do. And if we would shut up, we might be a bit more effective. How many people have ever heard talk yourself out of the... Yeah. When you impress that pretty girl and then you just keep talking and then you somehow don't get the date. My Bible tells me that it's better sometimes to be quiet and let them kind of guess if you're a fool than open your mouth and seal the deal that you're not the smartest person in the room. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Am I preaching to the choir here? So we're going to talk about verbal and nonverbal communication. Here's how we're going to get this thing started. Verbal communication is simply the sharing of information between individuals or groups by using speech. It's the enunciation, stress, and tone of one's voice with which the words are expressed, and it plays a major factor for this communication approach. Is that an okay definition for verbal? Yeah? Does that make sense to you guys? Do you understand that it's the stress, the tone in which that you allow the verbal communication style to come out is equally as important as the words that we say? Now, I'm talking to a room full of adults, so I don't expect that you've never heard this statement before, but it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. If anything in this room, we've worked really, really hard to make sure nothing blows you away, because then you might not use it. How many things have you heard so far in the last session and even today that you go, I knew that? We're not blowing anyone's hair back, right? Especially not my hair, right? We're not blowing anyone's hair back. The truth is all this stuff pretty simple? We've heard it before, we know it, but why don't we do it? Yeah, right? We're already stuck in these habits of kind of not doing it. But I want you to understand it's not just what you say, it's how you say it to your employee. How many people have employees that will run through a wall for them? Raise your hands up with pride. We need to hire more people. The camera may not see that only 6.5 people raised their hands because one person's not really sure, so they kind of did this. Okay, if you want more people to run through more walls for you, you can do your word tracks all day long, but if you take the greatest sentence ever crafted and your tone or the stress or the inflection or the enunciation doesn't move the minds and hearts of people, then their feet just stay still and they don't run through walls for you. Does that make sense? Yeah? So if we want to master communication, if we truly come to the place that we believe that communication matters and we start looking at verbal communication, we have to understand that it is not just what we say. And we can't let that be something we learned in grade school and we leave it where? In grade school. We got to keep that with us. The friendships that you have that you really enjoy today could be so much better. You just have to think about that. How you say something plays a major role in the ability of others to receive what you've delivered to them. You can only control what you can what? Control. How many times do you get frustrated at the person for just not getting it? I can't make this any clearer. I mean, do I need to draw a picture for you? That condescending tone is really moving the needle with them, by the way. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? I mean, how many times do we get really frustrated that they're not picking up what we're putting down? And we thought we were putting it down because up here inside our head, we totally get what it is that we're trying to say. This is simple. I've already thought this through. I know what I'm trying to say. But if they're not picking, how many people know The Word of God says that if you can't be a teacher till you first know how to be a student, right? Well, I want to tell you something really cool about that. If you're a teacher and no one's learning, pick a different title for yourself because you're not a teacher. You have to be able to understand that if they're not receiving it, then you didn't deliver the package. There's no tracking numbers like UPS, guys. I'm telling you that if you want people to receive what you're saying to them, that onus is on you. We have to get past this mindset, this age that we're in, where he or she just needs to get with the program. Maybe your program's broken. Maybe your communication style's not hitting. Maybe you haven't put in the work and time to make sure that they have the ability to receive what it is that you delivered. What's more important to you? Sticking to your standards, not bending, they're going to meet me where I am? Or do you really just want them to get the package that you sent them? Now that's a gut punch, because if you come to the reality of that, in many cases we just want to be heard more than we want them to get it. And that's unfortunate. In business, we want profits. And we're willing to spend the money and put in the cost to get the what? Profits. Guys, this is the cost if you want the profit in your ability to communicate with people. You got to pay the cost. Effective communicators must know how to listen. But you can't assume that you're speaking to a seasoned communicator. You best serve yourself and others when you demonstrate great attention to detail while communicating. So we're talking about verbal communication, and here I am telling you to have attention to detail. How can you have attention to detail? Dave touched on it. How many of us just want to talk? I promise you that part of verbal communication is listen. If you want to master verbal communication, you have to have great attention to detail, not good attention to detail. Does it not blow you away and impress you so much when somebody remembers that small little detail that they said to you? It means the world to them. It's impressive. It wows them. If you want to start wowing your customers, wowing your friends, your spouse, your partners, your vendors, your clients, you need to be able to demonstrate an attention to detail in your verbal communication. Maybe this might include you repeating what they said. Did I hear you correctly when you told me this? It sounds to me what you're trying to tell me is you're not going to be on time. Am I hearing that correctly? That wasn't to the few people that were late today. I didn't write your names down on the list in the back of the room. Zach?
I just wanted to share a saying that might be able to apply.
Please.
And this is perfect for right now. Just to break it up and just get a little boring. So we talk about this.
Yeah.
In the islands, there's a saying that if you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the one that yelps is the one that it hit.
Yeah. So the late comment.
The rock has been thrown, and I'm guilty.
I love it. No, guys, listen. The attention to detail part is crucial. Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm trying to tell you that your verbal communication has everything to do with the attention to detail. You've got to be thinking that when you verbally repeat it back, when you give the context clues to the person that you understood them, it blows their mind. But it also allows you to rehear and confirm what was just spoken. Because we're trying to become master communicators, yeah? So that's one of the steps we need to focus on. Here's the next part. You've got more control over how you deliver a message than how it's received. Let the truth that you can crush the conversation just by controlling your side of it and putting in the effort to gain their engagement while you deliver the message fuel you. You have all the control in the world in what you say and how you say it. No one's pulling your strings. Even when you work for a company that has a specific speaking talking point, these word tracks, how many of you have employees that are in sales and you say, this is exactly what I want you to say? Do we have that? Of course we do, yes? We have proven models and systems that work. But perhaps they could ask a few questions in between those word tracks and showcase and attention to detail and have inflection and tone in certain places that really connects and resonates. So even when someone's telling you what to say, you have so much control verbally over what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. Is there some truth to that? How many of our employees miss that every day? Just miss it. How many of them are doing your word tracks like a robot? Yeah, I heard some laughing. Like a robot. There's no inflection. There's no tone. There's no moving the needle. We need to start talking to our teams and letting them know that we need to maybe put some inflection, some tone, some energy into what we say. See, every word in the sentence matters. The ands, the thes, the thee, they all matter. You take away a few words in a sentence and then you have something incomplete. In the same way, the enunciation and the tone matters. And when you take that out, you spoke and delivered, but that customer never got that package. How many people can commit to making an active effort when we leave this room to really having attention to detail, incorporating some listening, change up the tone? It's not about you feeling comfortable with how you talk. It's about the person listening feeling really comfortable about what you said. Amen? I want to give you guys a few steps to master verbal communication. Remember what I said, I cannot pinpoint 2 greater topics in my life that have driven my success. I may not be the most successful person in this room, but I wake up every day filled with joy. I am pumped up. I am excited. I cannot wait to do the things that I do. I don't even know how to measure the success. There's so much darn success going on in my world. And I will tell you, it is because I understood that communication is a tool. It's my friend. I don't want to piss him off. He might quit talking to me. I really like communication. He allows me to connect with people. How many times do we get scared about communicating so we just put it on the back burner? I want you guys to start using communication like a tool, because if you don't use it in your advantage, I promise you it's working against you. There's no middle ground, right? This is a pass-fail. It's either working for you or it's what? Working against you. So here's 5 steps that have absolutely radically changed the way in which that I have tried to master communication, and I think they could be effective for you. The first thing I want to talk to you about is do your homework. Stop talking to people before you have done some homework. We heard Dave touch about it. But guys, do your homework before you talk to that employee. Do your homework before you talk to your spouse, your friend, your neighbor. Do some research. Some of that homework could be some context questions that you ask them before you talk to them about the big thing that you want to talk to them about. But you got to do your homework if you want to master verbal communication. Communication on both sides, to be quite honest. The other thing is get great first. I am really frustrated. I know that maybe not everyone in this room is a public speaker, a professional speaker, but people are going into conversations and they're verbally having dialogue and they're not even like good yet. Like a restaurant that opens before they figured out the menu is a joke. Has anybody had a bad sandwich? Yeah. That was an alley-oop for Dave. Like, Titus has never had a bad sandwich. I gave it to you. You missed it. Listen. A restaurant doesn't prematurely open. We don't prematurely give products and services away that aren't working properly, yeah? We don't drain a car of oil and then send it out without putting oil back in it. We got to make sure that we get great first before we start working on somebody. I got some doctors in the room or folks that work with doctors. I'm not interested in someone doing open heart surgery with me when the biggest project they've ever done is a boo-boo on a knee. Yeah? So stop having these conversations with folks before you get great first. Go work on it. If you're not putting time in, if it's not part of your schedule and budget to work on your verbal skills, your inflection, your tone, your questions, the attention to detail, if you're not doing that, then be quiet for a little bit. You just run around talking all the time because you think that you have the right to talk all the time. You work in a position where you're the boss. Shut up. Just be quiet for a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. Get great first. Nobody wants to listen to someone that's boring. No one wants to talk to someone that's mean, that doesn't care, that doesn't connect, people are not interested in that stuff, even if you're the boss. And if you go, well, Titus, I can't take a day off. I can't not talk. It's my responsibility. It's my role. I've got to communicate the direction for the team. I can't go one day without doing it. Then get good last night if it's that important to you. Make it a priority to get great before you waste their time listening to you. Here's the next thing that I think will move the needle for you. Plan for curveballs in the conversation. How many conversations do you have where you did not put any intentionality and strategy into it? You just talked, you were at the water cooler, hey, what's up? And then they actually tell you what's up. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, having a good day? No, I'm having a horrible day. Here's what happened. And you go, oh my gosh, I was not prepared for this conversation. I am not equipped for everything that is going on in your life. Well, guess what? Don't ask them how they're doing then. Plan for some curveballs. You hire a new employee, a couple weeks into the job, everything working good? No. What? What do you mean it's not working good? I planned on you going, yup, and I walk out of the room. We've got to plan for these curveballs. And curveballs do not mean a bad situation. It just means different than what you were thinking. Curveballs are not bad, but you need to be prepared for when it goes differently than you thought. What's my plan B? What's my plan C? How do I come out of this thing on top? Lawyers will tell you that they rarely ask a question that they don't already what? Be a bit more intentional. Plan for the curve. It's pretty silly. Let's be honest. When you watch a baseball player swing and miss at a fastball, what do you think? Wow, he got around pretty good on that. He almost hit it. When you see somebody miss a curveball, you have to stop from chuckling a little bit. It's a little silly, right? I mean, it's that big whooping ball and you thought they should have crushed it and they looked silly and almost fell down. Plan for the curveball, stop looking silly. The next one is imagine listening to you. Take a moment with me really quickly here. And I want you to close your eyes for just a moment and just imagine what it would be like to have a conversation with you. I want you to think and take it seriously. If you had to listen to you all day long, is it the same tone all the time? I mean, I'm glad that you're energetic and bubbly, but like all day? Huh? No. Is there alcohol involved? I want you to imagine what it would be like before you start talking to someone else. I want you to evaluate what the best parts of talking to you is like, so we can double down on those areas. You know, in business, you ask your clients, you ask your customers, you do feedback surveys. We're going to do one with you guys to make sure that we're doing a good job in this program. But you ask people, how was that? Well, when was the last time you asked somebody, or even yourself, how was that me talking to you thing? I'm talking about even your kids. I don't care if they're 9, 12 years old. They got a right to have somebody talking to them and with them and not at them, yeah? So I want you to imagine what it would be like to talk to you. Think about this. Who are some of the people that you love talking to? You look forward. You think, I hope they're at the water cooler. I can't wait till I talk to this person. And then think about why. What are they doing verbally in that conversation? What are they doing non-verbally in that conversation that has you just wanting to talk to them? Run through a wall for them. Imagine what it would be like to talk to you all day. You start doing that, your awareness level will go to a whole different place. See, really all we're doing in these classes is trying to get your awareness level to kind of shift, yeah? I don't know if we said this in the last session, but people react all the time, yeah? And then some people say you should be proactive, but what I always want you to come away from every one of these sessions is I want you to start being responsive. Nobody calls first reactors to the scene of any emergency. if we can get our awareness to change and we start imagining what it's like to talk to us and we shift how we think about that, then we'll course correct. So imagine what it's like to talk to you. You will have a completely different awareness. You will come to a completely different place of understanding. Does that make sense? I want to give you some steps to master nonverbal communication. Now, we're going to talk a bit more about nonverbal on the next slide, but really quick, I wanted to put these two on the same so that you could capture it in one space and it would be really efficient for you. So think about this, leaning in and leaning out. How important is that in a nonverbal situation to lean in? What does that let somebody know, Steve? It lets them know that you're listening. You're engaged, paying attention a little bit closer. I got really close to Zach a moment ago. Did everybody see that? Did he lean forward or lean back? Were you paying attention? He leaned back. You got to pay attention to those things. You got to see what's happening. Sometimes you got to lean in. Sometimes you got to lean back. But if you want to master nonverbal communication, you got to pay attention to if they're leaning forward or leaning back. I saw him lean back. I took 2 steps back. Did anyone see that? How regularly are you paying attention when it's not a guy with a lavalier at the front of the room and has your complete undivided attention and you missed it? How regularly are you watching? Did they lean in or did they lean back? If you want to master nonverbal, you've got to pay attention to that. You know what I mean, Mark? Lean in, lean out. If you want to master nonverbal, think about this, active listening. Nodding your head. Please do not think that this is beneath your ability to learn right now. This is where you get lost as a grown adult professional, where you go, duh, you know? You turn into a kid trying to prove that you're an adult. Duh, I know I should nod my head while someone's talking. Active listening will change the entire dynamic to your nonverbal success. I want you to think to yourself what it's like to talk to somebody that gives you nothing back. I'm sorry? It's awful? Okay. It's what? Riveting. What? There we go. That's what I was looking for. You want to stop. How quickly do you stop? When they're done. That's it. I need to finish. The entire nonverbal situation. The same thing happens when they're trying to connect with you and talk to you if you're not giving them anything back. You're active listening. Really? You don't say. And nodding your head. Those interactions, those road bumps along the road cause you to change the speed of the conversation in such a way that it saves the entire experience. The same way those speed bumps make sure that you don't run somebody over, providing those speed bumps in that conversation allows the vehicle to keep moving in a safe and effective way. If you want to master nonverbal, consider doing that. What's your face saying? Oh my gosh. Has anybody ever seen, what's the right word because we're recording this, resting upset face? Is that okay? The kids call it RBF. What's your face saying? When was the last time you looked at a mirror? When was the last time that somebody got annoyed or upset and goes, oh, you don't even care? And you're like, what are you talking about? Of course I care. And they're like, did you see your face? Your face is telling me all kinds of other things. Guys, your face is always on. It's always working. It's like the refrigerator keeping the food cold all the time. It don't go to sleep, right? Stephen's giving me a face right now. I remember my mom used to be like, don't give me that face. What face? What do you mean, Mom? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Yes. Did anybody think of 4 or 5 scenarios in their head the minute I said, what's your face doing? Yeah. How many times do you get annoyed when you're talking to your employer or staff and they're making that face like they don't seem to care? But the truth is they very well might care. They might be all in, respecting you, ready to run through a wall for you, but their face is saying they're not. You don't even address the situation, but internally you have all kinds of feelings, all kinds of thoughts Some of those include elbow shots maybe, right? Okay? You get a little irritated with them, and they didn't do anything wrong. But their face made you think something completely different. Eye contact. Big one for nonverbal communication. Eye contact will change the dynamic and transform the relationship. You want to connect? You want to master communication? Look at somebody in their eye and stay focused. And when someone walks by, keep looking in their face. Guys, eye contact's a big deal. When you're engaged with somebody and you're talking, whether it's a networking experience or whatever, and someone walks by and they're listening to you and they look, how frustrating is that? I'm only asking for your attention for just a few minutes. What do I have to do to earn your attention for just a few minutes?
You can even tell if someone's like smiling when they're talking on the phone.
Yeah.
Because I bombed my first phone interview, and then someone told me to do it in front of a mirror, and it made a huge difference.
Huge. Little things like that change the entire trajectory. If you look into the sky with a telescope and you just move it just a fraction of a centimeter, where it ends up in space is millions of miles different, yeah? Just the smallest course correction. Just making eye contact just a few extra seconds longer changes everything. It will ignite your ability to find success inside your conversation. If you want to master nonverbal communication, look somebody in their eye just a little bit longer. The next thing I want to talk to you about is what is nonverbal communication. I want to give you all of the steps here. I want you to write these things down and understand that these are the tools in your toolbox to build a super successful nonverbal foundation. We've talked through these. I wanted to list them for you. I wanted you to have that at your disposal. I want you to understand that facial expressions, body movement and posture. Our parents used to tell us, stand up, straight. Gestures, eye contact, touch. We mentioned tone. What about space? Lean in, lean out. Sometimes you might be just a bit too close to somebody. Anybody with bad breath ever want to tell you a secret? Just a little space. Absence makes the heart grow. Give me just a little space. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yes. Nonverbal, give me a little space. Sometimes people need you to be a bit closer too. Sometimes people need that hug. They need that touch right there on the shoulder. Touch changes everything, doesn't it? I coach kids and we do high fives, we do fist bumps. It's just a different thing than saying good job. I told some of the kids last night, I said, give me some knuckles. His whole face lit up. Oh my gosh, that kid was like a Christmas tree. Touch and space will anchor your nonverbal communication. There's your list. Those are your screwdrivers, your hammers. Those are your tools. Does anybody want to build a foundation that's worth standing on? Yes. That's how you get it built. Here's some nonverbal communication cues, and they play some really interesting roles. I want you to think about it this way. What we do in our nonverbal approach can remove confusion. It can remove confusion where you thought they understood, but that layer of body language could go from I think I know to I 100% know. And not just for them, because you remove their confusion, but you remove your own confusion of, gosh, did they get that? Did that make sense to them? So your nonverbal communication can remove confusion. It can correct their perception. Anybody ever have the wrong perception of you? But maybe you said everything right? You understand what I'm talking about? So when we have the right nonverbal cues, it can correct perception. It adds impact to the message. It wakes up all the parts of the brain. Anybody that understands the brain will tell you that when you can light up all those neurons, their ability to retain what you said through the roof. So you want to make sure that you're lighting up all those neurons. Non-verbal communication plays a major factor in that. And lastly, creates what? Comfort. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a what? I love to hug. I just think it's the coolest thing ever. Have anybody in here ever got a hug before? Yeah. Because if not, I was about to come hug you right now if you never got a hug. There's something special about nonverbal communication that creates comfort. Any strength overutilized or utilized the wrong way can turn into what? A weakness. So in the same way that it can create comfort, it can also do what? Some discomfort. I used to say uncomfortability. My wife corrected me so many times I started saying it right. It can create discomfort. Made me very uncomfortable how often I would get corrected. So I fixed it. Because she started to touch me on my knee when I would say it wrong. The black and blue started to be painful. I got the message. I'm more comfortable now that I can say it correctly to you guys. The last slide that I have for you before I get you out of here and put you on another break is this one. Remember we talked about earlier, I want to tell you why you talk so darn much. This is why. I want to teach you how to win with your words, and I want you to know why you're talking so much. The 3 fundamental human needs are to be heard, to be understood, and to matter. We have a hard time thinking that we matter when we're not talking. We want so desperately to be heard. We had some questions about millennials last time. Millennials want to be heard. The groups that came before millennials, they wanted to be heard too. It's just their parents said, shut up all the time. Basic human need is to be heard. Anybody in here want to be heard? Yes. You want to be heard so much more than you think. It's super important to you. I just wish my kids would. I've told him 4 or 5 times, I just don't understand why he doesn't hear me. It is so important. And we want so desperately to speak because we so desperately want to be heard. We want to be understood. If I could just get them to understand. If I could just say it one more time. If I could just say it a little differently. Sometimes there's different parenting techniques. If he ain't going to listen, I'll make him understand. We want to be understood. This is why we talk and talk and talk. And what happens is we think that'll fuel our desire to matter. We don't understand that it's not just the act of communicating or talking that allows us to be heard, understood, and matter. It's the connection and the magic inside of an effective level of communication. Because when you keep talking but no one's listening, you were not heard. Remember, if you teach and no one learned, you don't get to call yourself a teacher. You keep talking and no one's listening, I promise you're not being heard. Yeah? Here's a cool paragraph to leave you with. I hope that maybe it does more than inspire, but motivate you. Here we go. Since every human wants to be heard, and this is true even when you are speaking, you must understand that if you do not let others speak, they cannot be understood. And therefore, will never feel like they matter when you're speaking to them. If this is not understood and corrected by you, this major obstacle will always stand in your way of being an effective verbal communicator. I can't sum it up better than that. I thought about reading that paragraph and in 2 minutes being done and walking in the back of the room and giving Christy extra time. That's about it right there, folks. So I hope that paragraph adds some fuel and some tools to your ability to be successful. Did that make sense? Verbally and non-verbally. Did I connect with you? Yes. Enjoy a 5-minute break. We'll see you on the other side.